So just to introduce the group, so obviously this is the first time that you've attended the Business Analysis Roundtable, and what we help people perform high performance business analysis in their day-to-day roles and build a really, really thriving business analysis career. So we help our clients be really front and center in what they're doing within their roles. So a lot of the time, what I say to the people that I work with is that, are you playing that front and center role? And obviously for new people to business analysis, it may not necessarily be straight away, but definitely there's an element of being raising your profile and becoming more visible. And what that means is that you're working across the whole life cycle of your project delivery. So you have very strong relationships with your business side, but you also have really, really strong relationships with the technical side, and you understand both those audiences, and you're able to straddle across all of that and contribute across the life cycle. A lot of the time, the people that I work with, the difficulty that they have or mistakes they make is not kind of bringing their profile out and kind of establishing the really critical relationships. And it starts with the business, because that gets you the real visibility and it gets you the real credibility, because you are, as business analysts, you're the ambassadors of this delivery process. So you're the ambassadors of the project, you're the ambassadors of the business. So when you're going through and you're dealing with technical teams to implement solutions based on business requirements that you've put together, then you're able to represent that without the business having to be really, really hands-on involved. Because if you imagine that, the business, they have little time, they've got their day jobs to run, and this is a lot of the time you get the conflict. They've got their day jobs and they're being pulled onto the project. So how do you really optimally engage their time and get information out of them, so you've got enough to be able to then carry that forward and represent them? So a lot of the stuff that we cover, those sorts of tips: how do you connect, how do you build information profiles, information models about the organization that you're working in, so you can just run that through into the delivery, and also how you then get the resources that you need to help you. So business analyst isn't just somebody writing a business requirements document and then you hand it over to the next process and you're kind of done. It's carrying it through, and it's having a team with you of business people that are more of the everyday, if you like, end users, so that you can just let a couple of people have joined, so that you can then get them really, really involved and get them understanding things. The difficulties that people have are the subject matter experts or the business people. They'll struggle with technical concepts. They'll struggle with technical ideas. They don't know how to model, for example, processes. They don't know how to analyze processes and to translate that into more lower level requirements to then hand down into the life cycle. So how do you really, really effectively do that? So this is all the kind of stuff that we cover in these sessions. Now, one of the questions that was asked in the forum is, what's the business analysis career roadmap? What does it look like? And this is something that, especially for people who are fairly new to business analysts, or even those who are already existing, it's like, where do I go next? What are the prospects for me to be able to grow as an individual, to be able to earn a good salary, to be able to take on more types of responsibilities, higher responsibilities, or maybe achieve an end ambition. So somebody was writing on the Facebook that they wanted to be like a BA startup and help advise clients how to start their businesses up. So there's definitely an entrepreneurial element to business analysis. So how do you then develop the right skill set to be able to build that profile? So if I just give a short introduction to myself, because I think that we haven't met, so it's good to just introduce where my background is from. So what I did is I started out, I was at university, I did computer science degree, and I was more of a technical guy at that time. I was more like developing, and I was developing quite interesting creative projects at university with Lego bricks, and I made my own programming language to how to have an electronic programmable Lego brick that you could send instructions to move its motors and to do stuff. So it was quite a novel idea at that time. Obviously, the world's moved on in 20 plus years. Then what I did when I went into industry, I very, very quickly found that I wanted to start working more with people and understanding business and understanding actually how to deliver things based on what a customer wants, rather than just getting into the technical stuff. And software is interesting, technical stuff is interesting. It's kind of, you know, it's like toys, you know, like you get excited with doing it. Um, but I was interested in business, and I was interested in actually helping deliver solutions that the customer wanted, and understanding their needs and understanding how business operated. So when I started, I was working for a subsidiary of a global insurance giant, which was a really cool place that we actually, it was about 60 people running a business, which was a 50 million pound a year sales turnover. And it was an auction website which sold cars. So it was cars which had gone through the insurance process. Maybe they were stolen and recovered, or maybe they were completely written off, and there were spectrums in between. And so we actually built the complete front to back office system on an online website. And this was back in 2000 and probably 2002. So we rebuilt the front to back office website completely in-house, but we did a really pucker job of the analysis process. And that's where I carved out the business analyst role, because what I saw was a gap. I saw a gap in the organization, that the technical people are very good and the business people understand what they're doing and what they want, but there's a lack of that conduit, or the person that's sitting in between them being able to help them translate from what they want into a good solution, and working with tech teams. So it was a really cool experience, and that for me solidified and cut my teeth on most of my business analysis experience. And actually I was the kind of person who craved variety, and I needed different types of projects and things like that. So cut a long story short, I basically have been moving around projects over the years and specialized in various domain areas. So I'm very much into financial crime. And I like that because I think it's quite a good thing for the world to do, to be able to fight financial crime that's with people that are terrorist financing or money laundering and things like that. So I work with large complex project implementations and consult with organizations who are doing those and help them deliver that, but specialize within the business analysis capability. So one good thing about everybody here being business analysts is that you're in a really strong position to solve problems that most people can't figure out how I should solve or how I should go about doing this. Every single, and I'm very surprised, you might be surprised to hear this, but practically every company I've worked in, and these are big FTSE 100 organizations, you know, institutions that are global, they always lack the business analysis capability, somebody who can really speak well with the business and clearly and articulately, and then being able to then help technical teams deliver that stuff. And one really interesting thing I've done is I've interviewed a number of program managers. So if you don't know what a program manager is, the program manager is somebody who is responsible for multiple projects that all have some kind of relationship to each other. And so they will manage multiple project managers who are allocated to those projects. And I said to them, these guys are paid like £1,000 plus per day. And I said to them, what is it that is that you look for, that would make you employ a business analyst, or would look for the right type of business analyst for your project? And bearing in mind that these are the people that will ultimately sign off your employment contracts, or will get you through the door, because you'll likely interview with them. And he said to me that a lot of the time he finds that business analysts can't articulate very clearly. So he said it doesn't matter about domain knowledge per se necessarily, you know, knowing about payments or knowing about marketing or knowing about I don't know, financial crime in depth. He said that wasn't important for him. He said and techniques wasn't so important for him. What he wanted was somebody who could facilitate subject matter experts, people who are in the business, be able to bring them together, being able to communicate and get information out of them as to how they do things and what type of problems they have, and being able to then take that and use problem-solving techniques to then break that down and into a more structured presentation, bring it all together, and then being able to then present that back and articulate it back to the program manager, back to the business. He said, very, very difficult to find people who can do that really well. And I think that for me was a really interesting find, because I would thought he'd say it should somebody who can do use cases really well, who can do process mapping really well. These are all tools, and they're important to know, but they are going to be tools that are going to be used with the foundation of those ability to articulate, communicate, build really strong relationships, facilitate people, and get complex information out there and then being able to document it in a really clear way that says, okay, this is where the problem is. So in terms of business analysis roadmap, because I wanted to deep dive, I don't know who would like to contribute. Who's got some thoughts on sort of the business analysis roadmap, their career path? Maybe we can have some contribution from you guys. Would you like to come on unmute and just give your thoughts? What's the career path look like for business analysts? Come on, somebody.
Well, yeah, I think it's regarding the mostly focused process oriented, and how you just figure out how to flow the project process, and through that actually path we can understand where is the problem lies, where's the solution we can figure out, and how and when, and specifically how precisely, without any error and minimizing error, we can achieve our goal. So figuring out and planning the process is the mainly focused thing, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, and that's right, Sachi. So, and who else? Any other thoughts about the roadmap of a business analyst? What the career path would look like for a business analyst, or what your experiences are in terms of where you are right now? Maybe any struggles or challenges you're having in that area.
Hi everyone. Hi James. So just to add to
Maybe if that's you, can we speak closely and we can hear you really clearly?
Hello. Hi James. Am I audible now?
A little background noise.
Yeah, a little background noise. Yes.
Better?
You have a fan in the background.
Okay, just give me a minute. Let me just put it on.
Okay. We'll give Juby a second and then she can speak.
Hello, James. Is it better now?
Yeah, I can hear you really well.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah. So if just to add to what Sityaki said, according to me, business analysis is more about understanding what the client wants, and then understanding what is, because most of the times what happens is they themselves are not very clear about their product. So that is where we have to pitch in, give them suggestions based on our experience, and then finally come out with a product which is beneficial for the client, as well as the user would be very happy using our product. So it is more about understanding the requirements, designing it, and then having a happy customer and client at the end of the journey.
Good point, Juby. Yeah, the happy customer is the thing, isn't it? I've been on a lot of projects where they're just literally just get the thing out the door, get the project delivered, and don't worry about the customer experience very much, and your response, you have, as a business analyst, you got to pick up the negative feedback, and as a business analyst on a project, you don't want to be associated with just getting things done. So it's a really good point, because what you have to do is you're the custodian of the requirement. You understand the business's need and you're representing the business. So you're almost like, if you don't say anything, the business probably won't also say anything. How do you deliver a satisfactory solution? So then how do you make sure that you're representing? Now you're dealing with issues here. You're dealing with project pressures. You're going to be dealing with politics. You're going to be dealing with all these cost issues and all these sorts of things. So it can be difficult sometimes to be able to champion that quality through, but actually, this is where the requirement comes into it, and where working very, very closely with the business to understand what will make them happy, and making sure that's all captured in a really good requirements document. So there's a real art to writing a decent set of business requirements and usability requirements and all these sorts of things that will make sure that that's going to be delivered. Because a business requirement is like a contract. I always say this to people I work with. A business requirement is like a contract. So when it's signed, that is what is contractually supposed to be delivered. So that is then the obligation on the people who deliver it, whether it's suppliers, whether it's developers in-house, whoever it is, to make sure that they're delivering that solution to the way that its requirement is. So there's many elements of requirements that needs to be covered, and that's a whole topic that we can cover in another session. How do you write a really good requirements document? For the career roadmap, also a business analysis. So if we start from the beginning, and if we say you can actually do multiple things, you can start off as a business analyst. You can learn the fundamentals. What is business? How does business work? How do business people think? What is a business process? What's an organizational process? How is value determined? How is the need identified for particular problems? How do we find problems in the business, and understanding how the business works? And then you're delivering solutions associated with that. And I say that we should understand the full life cycle really well. How do you write requirements? How do you model those requirements? How do you get involved in the design? How do you assure the design of this product is compliant to requirements? How do you make sure that when it's being built and tested, it's in line with the requirements? How do you get business users involved in testing? As a business analyst, you want to be hands-on in all of those activities. And some people who are newer to business analysts, you may start off in a particular area and just say, I write requirements documents, and then my lead analyst or my project manager then kind of does the rest of it. But I want you to be involved more like as more of a higher profile, right? So involved as an advisory. This is best practice. This is how things should be done. This is how we should test these requirements, because you'll find in the organizations you work in, some people don't know how to test properly. Some people don't know how to design and make sure they're designing against your requirements. Some people don't understand how to interpret requirements. So you're involved really closely across everything. So a lot of responsibility on the business analyst's shoulders. But by doing that, you develop really good soft skills, negotiation skills, problem solving skills, critical thinking, all of these skill sets, how business works, what makes business work really well, where business breaks, how to write clearly, how to express yourself, because business analysis is also creative. Believe it or not, there's an emotional element in it as well. You might think that it's just a technical skill set and this is what I do, but actually there's a very strong connection in it because you've got to build your relationships. Empathic listening, this is something I really stress, is something that's really critical to the success of a business analyst career, and the difference between sort of staying as a general, if you like, somebody who's involved in documentation versus somebody who goes on to really lead other people, lead teams. And so you start to climb up the ladder, and you can go to become a lead business analyst, where you start to coordinate other analyst activity, go into more complicated projects, more challenging projects, wider scale, even global projects. So I've been on projects where we've got 37 countries that we're rolling out a solution to, with people to talk to in each of those different countries and get all their requirements and also present back to them, this is how the solution is going to be. So it gets complex. And then you can if you want to go further, you can go into product management, because then those skill sets that you have as a business analyst will then allow you to go into a product management role, where you could own a product, the vision of a product, you'll design that product, you're representing a business area. Let's say, for example, you work for a startup organization where you're a product manager, and you own a particular product. You're designing the vision for that product for the organization. You have suppliers that you're working with, you actually own the requirements. So you're almost like building your own product, and these are your requirements. So instead of actually doing the requirements analysis, actually you're saying, no, this is how I want the product to be, and I'll have business analysts working for me to actually design that and to get that built. You can get into project management as another one also. So business analysts, and why it's important to be a really good business analyst is because if you've got those really good skill sets, if you become a project manager or product manager, you'll be an excellent one, because you understand all the underlying detail. So you can really lead a team very well. From project management, you can go into program management also. And then that means you can then lead multiple programs, multiple projects of work And if you want to take that on, then you can take that on as well. And that's also a very interesting big challenge. It all depends on what your nature is. So some people are more managerial, some people are more analytical by nature, some people are more people kind of connection. So it depends on what your desire is, but there's multiple places that you can go. You can even go as far as being an entrepreneur and setting up your own business if you want, because you understand how business works, the forces of business. You're gonna, if you have a business, you're gonna need technical people, you're gonna need suppliers, contracts, all that kind of stuff. And business analysis gives you those skill sets to be able to do that. So a lot of the time on projects that I work on, what we call as RFPs, which is you're trying to find a supplier to provide a particular software solution for you. So you have to go through a supplier selection process, ask them certain questions, make sure that they fit the criteria, make sure they understand the requirements, get them to present their ideas back, and then you evaluate them. So, choosing them, writing the framework to provide information for them to be able to pitch their service or their product to you, being able to evaluate them through evaluation techniques and scoring and things like that. These are all things that business analysts will get involved in and be able to do. So there's plenty of variety, plenty of opportunity, and first and foremost, it's a well-paid profession. So it's a well-paid profession. You can work internationally, and what I'm finding more and more is that organizations are crying out for really good quality business analysts to help fill the gap. Somebody was just talking to one of my somebody I'm working with has just been interviewing for business analyst roles, and they've got one role with a logistics where they want him to come in and do the as-is process and the to-be process, and it's a global organization, it's a group, and he's like, okay, how do we do this? So we've got to figure out with him how we're going to go and do these process maps. How should he do it? What kind of skills does he need if he hasn't done it? The really good thing about a business analyst is you can be dropped into a different area and you can figure out, like, you don't swim, you don't sink, you just figure out how to swim, and you get it going. And it's all about your confidence and the way you carry yourselves. Then the organization will follow you and trust you. So career pathwise, it's really variegated. There's really a lot you can do, and you can go according to how far you want to go. Another question that somebody asked was that what about data analysis and business analysis, and does a business analyst do data analytics? And business analytics is a different skill set. It's more data related. It's more like it's effectively a data analyst with who's on steroids. So you can do really cool stuff with data. You can do visualizations and all these sorts of things. But business analytics is a different sort of path. Not something that I really get into, because I'm more of what I call as a life cycle business analyst, where you're involved across the whole gamut and you're acting in leadership and facilitation capacity. So what anyone's thoughts? Give me some ideas. What any aspirations around here? What you want to be doing? Where you see yourself in your career?
James, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Actually, I am a typical developer in Moody's Investor Service, and since last 6 years. So it's just like coding and developing and all those stuffs. Now, since last 2 years, actually, I have been involved in the entire SDLC process, which we follow the agile methodologies. Now, in last 6-7 months, you can say that typically I have been associated with the requirement gathering. Now the entire SDLC process in details. Even I do the testing as well. Manual testing, you can understand. Now what is happening, even the AMC SLA period support as well. So what is the thing is happening that as I'm being involved in the entire SDLC process, so isn't it a kind of business analytics related thing? Because requirement gathering, I understand Juby also said that it kind of BA kind of stuff, but that other part like development, testing, then support, deployment, release, all those things are typical technical things, right?
Yeah.
So
so your question is, am I a business analyst? Because although I'm a developer, I'm involved in the business requirements. Is that what you're asking? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it depends on the complexity of the project that you're working on. A lot of the time you'll have developers who are going to be writing the requirements. But the only thing with that is that you're kind of marking your own homework. So as a developer, you're gonna write requirements, and then you're gonna develop against those requirements. So you can tick yourself and say, yeah, I've done everything that the business asked me. So in business, as a business analyst, you generally have a person who's independent, and you segregate the roles and responsibilities so that the developer, the business analyst, can objectively assess whether the developers actually satisfied the requirement. But so I'm not saying you're not a business analyst, because you are, because you're doing that function. What I'm saying is that, and by the way, developers and technical people will make brilliant business analysts. It's just a slight mindset shift in terms of moving slightly further front part of the project to be able to work directly with the customer and analyze and write such define processes, define business architecture, being able to specify details of requirements and understanding process. So one of the things that we talk about, which I think we'll go into in another separate session as well, is process-driven requirements, and how you take the business through a very systematic, stepwise process according to the way that the business does things, and being able to then turn that into a set of requirements that links back to the process and starts to build what you call as traceability. And traceability is a really powerful tool to make sure that when you've written requirements, when somebody is designing those or testing those, that you're actually you're addressing all of the original requirements. And that's the technique. And this is from the more sort of complicated projects. It's not always needed. So you are working as yes, you're doing that role as business analyst. But what I'd say is also that you want to be, and you're across the life cycle, so absolutely yes. But you probably want to be going more deeply into the business analysis space, so that you can take on bigger projects where you can just do the requirements bit and give the work to be done by the developers as well as the testers as well. So you're kind of building a larger team, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So then that just means then it's just building up your skill set for the different tools that you need to have as a business analyst. What type of tools do I need? The communication part, just being able to specialize, building the business relationship, talking the business's language, understanding their process, and empathically listening so that you can replay back to them, and then taking that forward and then facilitating it. So you don't need to develop it. You need to facilitate that development and make sure that development's being done well. So you're kind of taking a step up there, I think that's the place where you need to be. Yeah.
Got it, James.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other shares? So please share your experiences, what you're doing in business analysis. If you're new, then please raise your hand and just say you're new, and any questions that you have, then please ask.
Hi, James. Sipra this side.
Hello, Sipra. Hello.
Hi, James. Hope you are doing well.
Yep, doing good, thank you. And you?
Yeah, I'm safe.
Good.
Yeah. So, James, actually, I am a BD, business development executive in a pharmaceutical company. It's been 3 years I am working as a BD. So as you have explained the roles and responsibilities of a BA, the same work I am also doing as a BD, like elucidate the requirements, document the requirements, and customer relationship management, and all those things I'm doing it as of now. But the thing is, as I want to update myself with new tools and technologies, so I just want to know what all are the tools which are useful for a BA, particularly like for a BA as of now, what I have understood is the visualization techniques should be good enough. So Tableau and Pencil, all these things, we should be knowing all this. So my question is, what all are the tools and technologies in the beginning I should learn?
Okay, good question. So Sipra, I think what you're saying is that you're kind of as a business development executive, you're there in the requirement stage, but you're also going to be potentially implementing tools. Perhaps I don't know if you're going to be implementing the Tableau tools, or whether you're going to be working with somebody else who's implementing those Tableau tools. What would that be?
No. In the current scenario, I'm not using any kind of tools. But the thing is, as I want to shift to a BA role in my future, So
Yeah.
what all tools I need to learn?
Okay, so I think that's probably a discussion that we can take directly, but what I would say initially is that first and foremost as a business analyst is understanding the concepts and the methodology. This is a foundational thing. So there's a few things. If you like, the bottom layer is your relationships and your connection with people. That's the foundational. The second level is then what are the tools and what are the methodologies that you need to do, and what are the concepts to understand foundationally for business analysis, because it's a slight mindset change. And then on those two, then you build on the top of that, what tools would you then use? And when we're talking about tools like Tableau, then we're starting to talk more about like the way that we would implement a particular solution. So there's a lot in that question, but I think that we kind of need to understand what direction that you're actually going in. So what is your aspiration to be as a business analyst, and what type of for example, a lot of the questions that people ask will also be based on the types of role profiles they're looking at, to say, I'd like to get this business analyst job. And in the business analyst role profile, it's advertised, it says, I need to be able to do Tableau, I need to be able to do this, I need to be able to understand this. And so what we do is we try to form our training around what the market is advertising for. But I think that's okay, but I think there needs to be a fundamental understanding. To be a life cycle business analyst and be that high performing business analyst, there needs to be the underlying concepts that need to be instilled first. And the reason I say that is because the market, what businesses are crying out for is somebody who's actually versatile. So whether it's Tableau, whether it's what was the old one I used to work with? Tableau, it could be business intelligence, business objects, or Spotify, whatever it is, all of these different BI tools, which these, by the way, for everybody who doesn't know, these are these are reporting tools. They're almost like a dashboard by which you can design interactive reports. So you can drop data into a report and you can say what's the sales report for the month, and you can design a sales report to say this many sales across these regions, and you can cut and dice it by country or region, or search criteria. There's all different things you can do. Now, the platform itself doesn't really matter for you as a business analyst. And the reason I say that is because if you understand the concepts that underpin it, all software is pretty much the same. It's just packaged in different ways. It uses different concepts, and that's more for the technical people to have the specialists in implementing. But you as a business analyst will understand what are the reporting requirements, how do you build a report, how do you design a report, the concept of report, what are the attributes of that, how often does the report need running, what kind of cutting and dicing do you need on that report, what kind of capability. So before even thinking about the tools that you need to build that report with, what does the business need? Rather than saying, let's choose a tool and then we'll figure out how to build a report. So I'm taking it at the beginning of the life cycle for the business analyst, if that makes sense, separate. So I think that's something we can maybe discuss in a bit more detail. But feel free to ask more questions. And I know some of you may have more questions to ask, and we're coming to the end of time. One thing I'll say is I'll post this video into the forum, but if anybody has got more specific questions or wants to go into a more of a deep dive discussion than one-to-one, then what we can do is we can set up a strategy session together as a one-to-one. And I'll put the link in the chat actually. So if you want to put something, you can just put something straight in my calendar, and we can explore, we can discuss together on a one-to-one basis. And then there's the kind of two parts to that. First, we just spend 10 minutes together discussing where it is you're going, what you're doing and everything, and then we'll have a longer session to go into more of a career strategy for you. So I'll put that, I'll just give me a second, I'll just put that link in now. And if anybody has any other questions, then feel free to ask away. Does anybody want to know?
Hi James, Juby here. I have a question. So from my experience of working as a business analyst, the major issue that I've faced is most of the times we find it difficult to get the requirements clear, because there are multiple stakeholders involved, and getting a consensus from all of them on one particular module or design or functionality is very difficult. So is there any tool or any specific technique that we can use for quick requirement gathering, or something that we can through which the requirements can be gathered and elicited in minimal span of time? Is there any technique or is there any tool that can be used?
Yeah, I mean, there's the first and foremost, there's the relationship element to this. So if you're saying that you've got a conflict, so you're saying that you've got a conflict with stakeholders who are having different requirements, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is a common problem. So one person wants it to look like this, one person wants it to do this, this person doesn't agree. So you've got to sort those relationships out first, and that's at the front end of the process, sorting those relationships out and making sure that you actually understand who is actually responsible for, like, so first we talk about what we call as process owners, and you have to work with the different people that your stakeholders, and divide them as roles and responsibilities so they're not overlapping. And so, for example, if somebody is responsible for a sales process and that you're doing requirements work for a particular sales process for an organization, there should be one authority on that. Who's the one authority on that? And if there's a conflict, then what you need to do is work with them in a sort of a negotiation way, and build relationship with them, each of those stakeholders, so you can resolve that conflict and establish one source. If that's not done at the beginning of the project, you're going to have that continual conflict coming out. So there has to be an element of resolving. Now that might require you to escalate, but this is part of the original, the starting point of the project. What is the org structure? Who are the players that are involved? Who are the influential people? Versus who are the people who are the decision makers, and they can be very different things sometimes, and so it gets political. So stakeholder map helps work that really, really well. So you can figure out who's responsible, where are they, what type of influence do they have? Are they there in an official capacity are they there actually as a decision maker? Are they there are they influencing from behind the scenes, and then bringing that to the surface? You've got to work with your project managers, you've got to work with your people like your sponsors to resolve these sorts of conflicts. Because if it's not done at the beginning of the project, like you're saying, then you're going to have a constant conflict coming out. So when you design, and this is one very, very good technique, powerful technique, if you're not already using it, is what you call as a RACI matrix. And a RACI matrix is R, A, C, and an I. R, A, C, and I. And what that is it's who is responsible for. So let's say you're writing a requirement or a particular section of requirements. Who is responsible for writing those requirements? Who is accountable for signing those requirements off? And when I say accountable, that means that they're going to own that requirement. That means nobody else should be contradicting or conflicting with them. So you put a RACI matrix in place, and you use this sort of governance process to show that these people are on the hook. They're responsible, they're accountable executives. They're going to sign off my requirements. So I don't want to go to 3 different people and say, can you review my requirements, and each of them sign off when they're arguing. That has to be sorted out right at the beginning. So RACI is a good way to do it. There's other techniques which we can also explore, but that can be, I can put some posts in the group on that as well, give some suggestions. We can play with that. It's okay?
Thank you so much, James.
So I think time is up. I think we've hit time. So I've just to call it out again. So I've just put the link in the for a strategy course. If anybody wants to go into more depth one-to-one, then just click the link and just book something into my calendar, and we can catch up together. We'll call it time for now, because that's it. 45 minutes is our session. Thank you for being part of this. It's been good to have you, and I love the questions that you've asked as well. I find it's really stimulating. So I hope that if you have any more questions, then just feel free to put them in the Facebook group. I'll post this, as I said, I'll post this later on in the Facebook group, so you can listen back on it as well. And we'll hold this every week at the same time. So it just keeps us in a routine, and we can go through different topics. We'll come up with additional topics. If you want to see specific topics that you want raised and questions, then just feel free, put them in the group, and then we'll build them into an agenda for the next sessions and beyond. So thanks everybody, and have a really great day.
Thank you. Thank you,
so
James.
much, James.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye guys.
Wonderful session. Thank you so much for this initiative.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.